The ice doesn't crack like glass. It groans low and deep, like something enormous is dying beneath your feet. Imagine standing on a wooden deck in the middle of nowhere, thousands of miles from the nearest human being who isn't already trapped with you, and hearing that sound roll up through the hull. 28 men heard it, and every single one of them would live to tell the story, but not one of them knew that yet. This is the story of the ship called Endurance, and the crew who should have died a dozen times over in the frozen heart of the Weddell Sea, and somehow, against every reasonable expectation, walked away. It's August of 1914. Europe is sliding into a war that will kill millions, and on the other side of the planet, a former grocer's assistant turned polar explorer named Ernest Shackleton is trying to do something nobody has ever done. Cross Antarctica on foot, coast to coast, through the most hostile landscape on Earth. He's already failed to reach the South Pole once, beaten back within 100 miles of it. This time, he wants something even harder. He names his ship Endurance after his family motto, Fortitudine Vincimus. By endurance we conquer. He has no idea how literal that name is about to become. The plan is simple to say and brutal to attempt. Sail into the Weddell Sea, find a landing point on the Antarctic coast, and set off across the continent with dog sleds, meeting a second ship on the other side. 28 men sign on. Some are scientists. Some are sailors who've never seen ice in their lives. One is a stowaway, an 18-year-old kid who hides in a locker and only reveals himself once the ship is too far out to turn back. Shackleton's response, when he finds him, isn't rage. It's something close to respect. He tells the boy that if they run out of food, the stowaways get eaten first. The kid laughs. He doesn't know yet how close that joke will come to reality. By December, Endurance is deep in the Weddell Sea, and the ice is already wrong. Denser, thicker, more aggressive than the chart suggested. The crew watches the pack ice tighten around the hull day by day, like a hand slowly closing. And then, in January of 1915, it closes completely. The ship stops, not because they've reached land, because the sea itself has frozen solid around them, gripping the wooden hull in a fist of ice that stretches to the horizon in every direction. They're still 100 miles from the coast they meant to land on. They will never get there. Picture it. A ship built to endure exactly this kind of punishment, now motionless, locked in place, drifting wherever the frozen ocean decides to carry it. No engine, no sail can move them an inch. They are passengers now, not sailors, riding a continent-sized raft of ice wherever the currents choose to take them. At first, there's almost a strange calm to it. The men set up routines. They play soccer on the ice. They race the dogs. They tell themselves this is temporary, that summer will loosen the grip, that the ship will break free before the real cold sets in. Shackleton writes in his journal that he still believes they can wait out. But the temperature keeps dropping, the days keep shortening, and the ice keeps squeezing. By February, it's clear they're not going anywhere this season. The plan to cross Antarctica is dead. Now the only plan is survival. Shackleton makes the ship into a winter station, has the men convert her into living quarters built for months of Antarctic dark. Outside, the temperature falls to numbers that don't feel real if you've never experienced them. 50 below, wind that can strip skin in minutes. And always, always, that groaning sound beneath the hull, the sound of millions of tons of ice slowly, patiently crushing inward. Here's the part that should terrify you if you think about it too long. There is no rescue coming, no radio call for help that anyone will hear, no ship on its way. If Endurance breaks apart out here, in the middle of the frozen Weddell Sea, in the dead of the Antarctic winter, 28 men will die in a place where no one will ever find their bodies. Winter passes. The sun disappears for months at a time. And when it finally starts to return, when spring should be bringing relief, the ice does something worse. It starts to move. The pressure ridges begin rising around the ship, walls of broken ice pushed upward by forces the men can't see, forces that could be miles away and still be squeezing the pack together like a vice. The ship starts to groan louder, then to creak, then, in October of 1915, to scream. Timbers that took skilled shipwrights months to fit together start splitting in seconds. The crew can hear individual beams snapping like gunshots below deck. Shackleton walks the ship, watching the hull deform in front of him, watching planks buckle under pressure no vessel was ever built to survive. He gives the order that no captain wants to give. Abandon ship. 28 men climb out onto the ice with what they can carry, and they watch their home, their only shelter in one of the most lethal environments on the planet, get torn apart plank by a force with no mercy and no memory. The masts snap. The hull splits open like something exhaling its last breath. And slowly, over the following weeks, Endurance sinks beneath the ice, disappearing into 3,000 meters of freezing black water. Now, there is no ship. There is no wireless. There is no possible way for anyone in the outside world to know these men are alive, or where they are, or that they need help at all. They are camped on a drifting slab of frozen ocean somewhere in the Weddell Sea, with 3 lifeboats salvaged from the wreck, some tents, some sled dogs, and whatever food they managed to carry off before she went down. If you had to design a scenario with the lowest odds of survival, you'd struggle to do worse than this. And yet, this is where the story stops being about a disaster and starts being about something else entirely. Shackleton makes a decision that history will remember as one of the most important calls in the whole ordeal. He does not let the men sit and wait to die. He gives them purpose, routines, watches, jobs. He keeps them moving, keeps their hands busy, keeps their minds from turning inward on the horror of where they actually are. Because a man with nothing to do out here has time to calculate his own odds, and the odds are not good. For months, they drift on the ice floe, watching it slowly carry them northward, watching it crack and shift beneath their tents at night, sometimes waking to find the ice is split directly under where a man was sleeping just hours before. They kill seals and penguins for food when they can find them, and when they can't, they eat less and less and less again. Then, in April of 1916, over a year after the ice first closed around their ship, the floe beneath them finally starts breaking apart for good. They have no choice left. They have to take to the lifeboats out into open, freezing ocean, surrounded by ice floes big enough to crush a small boat without even trying. For days, they row and sail through some of the most violent water on Earth. Men frostbitten, exhausted, seasick, terrified, until they finally sight land. Elephant Island. It's the first solid ground any of them have stood on in almost 500 days. You'd think this is where the story ends. It isn't. Elephant Island is barren, uninhabited, and completely off any shipping route. No one is coming to look for them here either. If they stay, they will eventually starve or freeze, quietly, with nobody ever knowing what happened to them. So Shackleton makes a choice that sounds almost insane when you say it out loud. He decides to take the smallest of the 3 lifeboats, a 22-foot open boat, and sail at 800 nautical miles across the most dangerous ocean on the planet to reach a whaling station on South Georgia Island, in the hope of bringing back a rescue ship for the men left behind. Picture that boat, 22 feet, open to the sky, no cabin, no real shelter, crossing the Southern Ocean in the middle of its worst season, through waves that can swallow ships 10 times its size. Shackleton takes 5 men with him. The rest stay behind on Elephant Island, under the command of a man named Frank Wild, who has to somehow keep morale alive, not knowing if help is ever coming, or if the 6 men in that tiny boat are already dead at the bottom of the sea. The crossing takes 17 days. 17 days of freezing spray coating every surface in ice, of bailing water around the clock just to keep from sinking, of navigating by sextant through storms so violent the men can barely hold a compass steady. At one point, they're hit by what witnesses describe as a rogue wave, so massive they think, for a moment, it's the coastline itself rising out of the dark. It nearly capsizes the boat entirely. And somehow they make it. They reach South Georgia Island. But there's one more twist of cruelty waiting for them. The whaling station is on the opposite side of the island from where they land, separated by mountains and glaciers that no one has ever crossed on foot before. So Shackleton, exhausted, frostbitten, and half-starved, sets out with two of his men to walk across uncharted mountain terrain, with no map, no proper climbing gear, and no idea if the route is even survivable. 36 hours later, without sleep, they stumble down into the whaling station at Stromness. The workers there don't recognize them. These are not the same men who left civilization 2 years earlier. Their faces are burned by wind and sun. Their clothes are rags. Their beards are matted with salt and ice. When Shackleton finally identifies himself to the station manager, the man reportedly can't speak for a moment. He had assumed, like everyone else in the outside world, that this expedition was long since lost. But Shackleton isn't finished. He immediately starts organizing a rescue for the men still stranded on Elephant Island. It takes several attempts, ships turned back by pack ice, months of frustrating delay, while the men left behind survive under an overturned lifeboat, eating whatever they can catch, watching the horizon every single day for a sail that might never come. Finally, in August of 1916, more than 4 months after Shackleton first left them, a rescue ship breaks through the ice and reaches Elephant Island. And here is the detail that still gives people chills when they hear it for the first time. Every single man is still alive. All 28 of them. Not one life lost. Not to the ice. Not to starvation. Not to the ocean that tried to kill them more times than anyone could count. Think about what that actually means. A ship crushed to splinters in one of the most remote, unforgiving places on the planet. Over a year with no possibility of rescue, no way to call for help, no guarantee anyone even knew they were still out there. And every single person who set out on that voyage came home. It's easy, looking back from the comfort of a warm room, to treat this as an adventure story, a tale of grit and heroism with a happy ending. But sit with it for a second longer. These were ordinary men. Sailors, scientists, a photographer, a physicist, a teenage stowaway who joined for the thrill of it. None of them signed up to survive an ice age in miniature. None of them trained for 497 days without solid ground beneath them. What got them through wasn't luck alone, though luck played its part more than once. It was leadership that refused to let hope die, even when logic said it should have. It was men choosing, day after day, to keep working, keep moving, keep believing there was a tomorrow worth reaching. It was small acts of stubborn humanity in a place that had absolutely no interest in keeping any of them alive. Shackleton never reached the South Pole. He never completed his crossing of Antarctica. By almost every measure of his original mission, the expedition was a total failure. And yet history doesn't remember him for what he failed to do. It remembers him for what he refused to let happen. Not one man lost. Not one life left behind on the ice. That's the part of this story that outlasts the frozen ship, the crushed hull, the 17-day crossing in an open boat. It's the reminder that sometimes the greatest achievement isn't reaching the destination at all. Sometimes it's simply making sure everyone gets to come home. If this story pulled you in, you're going to want to see more like it. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. Drop a comment and tell us what part of this ordeal stuck with you the most. And give this video a like if you want more true survival stories like this one. We'll see you in the next one.